Okay, 7:01, call the meeting to order. Regular meeting of Mount Holly Planning Commission, Wednesday, November 20th. First item on the agenda is any changes to the agenda. I don't have any. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, agenda is approved. We have one set of minutes, I think, that were sent around.
Yes,
from last time.
16th of October.
October meeting. Everybody have a chance to look at those?
Yes.
Any corrections?
I didn't have seen any.
Okay. Hearing none, minutes are approved. So we have a reorganization meeting every November. We can do this as quickly as possible. Does anybody want any changes? We could just do the slate. You want to stick with it?
I do not have any changes.
Andy, you willing to stick with secretary?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Unless there's any other nominations, we could just put the whole slate up at once and get it, go through. All right, so I'll move that the slate of officers is John McCann for chair, Jim Seward vice chair, Andy Schultz for recording secretary. We can do that.
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded. So we can do
second it.
Okay, we'll take a vote.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. That was easy. We also have our annual readoption of the rules of procedure unchanged. We could just put a new date. Yeah, we'll just put a new date. Anybody look at them since last year?
I mean, I read through them, but they're the same thing as last year.
Yeah, it's same as last year. So I'll move that we readopt the same rules with just the date change.
Second it. Yep.
Seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye. Yep.
Aye.
Aye.
And that's unanimous. Okay, great, thanks. We're cooking. Any reports from Faith?
COI,
Just,
conflict of interest.
That's part of it.
Okay.
That's part of it, though.
If
I
I'm misunderstood.
misunderstood. Okay.
Rules of procedure,
Separate
conflict of
thing.
interest.
Yeah, we've got a copy if you want to look at it again, but it's all, there it is.
just two BCRs received. One from Kelly Turco on Branchbrook Road for a camp. The property itself does include a river corridor, and so in this instance I did ask for clarification of the location on the property, and it was confirmed that it's not in the river corridor. And another renewal of an expired BCR after a year. This is Rasejevich on Belmont Road. This is the property by the lake, which was, the structure was demolished, but they're rebuilding on the previous foundation.
That's all like wastewater approved and all that?
They are using the existing wastewater system, and since they're building on the existing foundation, I do not believe that they are required to get a shoreland or wetland permit.
But there's,
They're on Belmont Road?
yeah,
So where do they came from?
that's
Sound
right
next to the
across.
lake?
That's what used to be
Mountain
the,
View or whatever it was.
used to be about the boathouse. That was part of the, where
I hate to do
Phil
this.
Blisco lives.
That's not the original foundation.
No, because the original foundation's like 5 feet from the shoreline and was a boathouse. And there's a separate foundation that they'd had covered with plastic for a good year. Concrete foundation. And there's been a mobile home there for God knows how long.
I went and had a look, and I could not see that they had poured a new foundation.
Under
As
the
in a different location.
They did a year ago.
Well, I think you're gonna have to check with.
And that was, it was under a blue tarp. months.
Yeah, I remember that to myself. Hi, Kevin.
How's it going?
Good. So, it probably is, while you're at it, probably worth checking for shoreline. Because it's about the amount of disturbance, it's not just the...
See,
I have checked the regulations for shoreline permits. If it's a rebuild on an existing foundation, it's not required. So obviously the thing to find out is whether or not they moved the foundation, if it's a new foundation.
Right, but also there's so we just did this for the fire hydrant, is if you make a bunch of disturbance of the land, then you kind of have to do it too, or at least get it.
Yeah, because the original foundation there was just a walking path between the house and the lot. It was like maybe 4 feet.
Okay.
It's worth just checking on because we're going to get questions about it anyway. So it's one of those that's kind of like right there in front of everybody.
Like I said, there's a concrete pad that maybe a year ago was poured and it was
Actually, it's not a pad, it's a foundation.
Foundation.
Yeah.
And it was, I know they tore down the old building there.
Because I know the person that did the dirt work.
All right. But it was there before they tore down the building, and it's not on the same footprint as the building. That much I know. And it was covered with a blue tarp for God knows
All winter.
all winter.
Been covered for nearly a year now.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think it's been covered 2 years.
It may be.
It might
Yeah.
be too.
It has been there for many years.
And David would probably be the one to know if that's a new foundation or the original. But I'm gonna bet you it's a new one.
Or maybe a little of both.
Yeah, it could be a little added to.
Okay.
Well, even just for knowing for another time, I think it's worth asking for what
Asking
clarify the
questions.
rules. Yeah,
And
because it does sort of raises.
It's in an obvious
It
spot.
raises a bunch of questions about what the existing, like where you put the wastewater there. There's no pump system.
Oh, yeah.
It just
Yeah, it
pumped
pumps
up.
uphill.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah.
It pumps up to the leach field, which is shared with the property across the road.
Oh, is it? Okay.
which he drove across and broke. I didn't know he shared it with him though.
Well,
No.
right.
No?
Different, because that one up there wasn't there when that building was in operation.
VCR?
I think there's a permit on that one for a new field. The one right on Belmont Road?
Yeah.
Yeah, down by the
Is it
lake.
a new permit?
I believe so, if you look it
That's
up.
what we're just gonna check on.
Yeah. I can't remember the guy's name, but I think there's a new field design there. But there is the one from across the street there.
Yeah, that one's right up there beside the road.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Got a split rail fence on it.
Yeah.
But the one down by the lake, that one there, they pump that one uphill.
Yeah.
That I do know, because I had to work on the darn thing.
Yeah.
And it's so
ago.
close to the water.
I know
to
it's
check.
not part of his because Gwen complained that he drove his tractor over and broke it one day.
All right. So, anything else? We'll follow up on
nothing
that.
else.
Well, the one I asked him, I was curious, I just realized that I mentioned to you before, the gazebo. Have they done anything?
As far
It was
as
brought up at last meeting and I went looking for it finally.
as
Is it
far
as far?
yes,
Yeah.
as far as I'm aware, but I have to admit that I did not follow up. I will follow up with Carol just to double check. As far as I'm aware, there is no BCR. If there isn't one, I can contact him and ask him to complete one. But David,
I didn't hear you.
Michael Asfar.
The gazebo out
The
next to
gazebo.
out in the woods there.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Well, call it whatever you want.
Okay. I had a vague idea that I had something. Did we get an email that I was going to mention? I can't remember now. I know. I'm really with it.
We've had a couple of inquiries, one about residential solar and another about the Summit Road storage facility.
Oh, you did?
You sent them to me.
Oh, I did? Okay. You
sent
read
me
them.
one.
I'm going to forward it to you.
Carol sent me one.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember what I remember forwarding it to you, but I couldn't remember what it was. I don't think I have anything else, so we can move right on. So we'll go right into, it's not a subdivision proposal, it's just discussion of what the plans are around, as I understand it, some boundary line adjustments. And one of the reasons we wanted to discuss it in an open meeting is there's been discussion sort of behind the scenes in the town office. People are getting questions about what it is. And there's been some, well, I guess the original paperwork that was filed with the town clerk was, had some errors in it. So there was some discussion about clearing that up. I just thought it made sense to get everybody together as much as possible and see if we can talk about what's planned and what involvement we have, if any. So, do we have the latest plan? Do you have it? I think you showed me something last month, but I don't know if you have anything since.
We have the same
Well, she
drawing,
had a very nice drawing there.
the same sketch plan that Andy Balalek had submitted to Carol, but with a clarification which I think I hadn't realised based on the original one, that the Enman property does not reduce in size, it actually increases.
Hey, it's Alyssa. It's not in. Hello. Sorry I wasn't able to make it in person. It's not increasing or decreasing. It's staying the same. So the land that the store would be, there's basically a swap between the land from Austin and Evan, and then getting that same amount of land on the other side of the stream.
Anyone who owns this piece, and then they're getting that piece, and the sewer line somewhere else in here.
So this is Dave Rose drew this. Kevin, are you familiar with this plan?
Yeah.
Okay, Dave's not here, but, so what new lots are getting created? Like, before any transfer happens, what new lots need to exist?
No.
I don't know.
Let me ask a direct question. This part here,
Yeah.
does that exist today?
No, my understanding is that would be added to on the east side of the brook from there.
But there's no
I don't know.
lot here?
No.
So this is all just...
So there's
It's getting cut out of the meadow that the Bo Alex owned.
Right. And it's...
there's about 2 acres, 2.8 acres going that the store would be, acquiring, I guess. And then we're just kind of shifting Evan and Austin's land so that we can have access to that.
Yeah, so the garage that was behind the general store was on Austin's land.
Right.
He's selling that to the general store.
Yeah.
And then acquiring that piece of the meadow.
From a different party, from the Blalox.
Yeah. And then,
So it's not a swap because it's a three-way.
well,
So
yeah.
this
but
land
it's
is
the
going
general
this
store.
way. This land is going this way.
Yeah.
And then, so what are the Blalox get? Are they receiving any land
No, they're selling a portion of the meadow
over here?
to the south side, yeah.
Both of these?
Well, I don't know if that's the most current map.
From my,
What was that?
Perhaps Andy and Teresa could clarify what their understanding is with their property.
Sure.
Are they still online?
She's been trying to talk.
No, listen,
No.
I'm trying to talk about.
Hello? Hi, guys. The deal is pretty simple. From day one of this whole story, we decided to have the store, and now where it stands, we'll be selling to them a portion of the meadow. But in order to complete the boundary line adjustment, the store has to have the immediate border with the meadow. Therefore, the deal between Alyssa and Austin had to be completed. And Austin, in order to not lose the land, is going to gain the same amount of land on the other side of the brook. That's the long story short. And according to David Rose, the order of the whole action is there has to be a deal between Store and Austin Inman and his partner. And when this is completed, the Store is going to purchase the portion of the meadow, and that's pretty much it. It's the long story in few words, and there is not much to it. Yeah.
Let's say part of the meadow and exchanging this part of the meadow for this piece of land.
The way I understand it is the first operation is for Andy and Teresa to sell this.
No. This is the last part of the deal. The first part of the deal is the purchase by the store of the land behind the store that is owned by Austin and his partner. Then the store, while this deal is completed, the store is going to own this piece of land. Therefore, it borders with the meadow. And then, we can have the deal between the store and us. And when this is done, the store is going to sell the piece of meadow to compensate Austin for what he is giving up for the store to be able to get to the meadow.
So what we're talking about is like 3 boundary line adjustments, basically.
Right. So the reason I said it that way is my understanding is that you are all trying to use the wastewater rules boundary line adjustment exemption in order to avoid having to amend any wastewater permits. And the exemption is that no lots shall be reduced in size. That requires the first transaction to be Balalic to Enman so that Enman's lot can increase, does it not? Because if the first transaction is Enman's lot getting reduced by maybe a third, that seems like you would not meet that criterion for exemption. Do you follow me?
I think what Andy's saying is that the first step would be
is this actually the most recent version?
I don't know, I have stuff with red stuff on there. So the first step is this garage going to the general store.
Which would reduce the Enman lot and not qualify for
But at the same time, acquiring that in the meadow.
How do you do it at the same time?
They can't because they don't own it.
Yeah, I mean, how do you, it's not an atomic transaction, like they're not all on the same, you're not gonna close simultaneously, right? I mean, it's a tricky, the whole thing is a little tricky. I'm just trying to understand what the mechanics are. And then, we sort of get into separate questions on whether you need to create a lot.
Yeah.
to do it. Like, so we haven't sort of ruled on that, on whether a subdivision is required here. The state feels that it is. We haven't opined on that. We just want to try to understand what the end result will be. And so to me, there's understanding those steps, the sort of configuration of the lots that'll result, and the desired outcome. So one of the things that I'm not clear on, maybe you can clear it up for me, is my understanding of the reason for the exemption in the wastewater rules is that it's sort of common sense that if your lot's getting bigger, you're not going to constrain the wastewater system.
Correct, yeah.
Right? But in this case, you are reducing the available land for the wastewater system and supplementing it with land that's across a river.
Yeah.
Which to me means that it puts it out of reach.
It's not usable.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like it sort of violates at least the spirit of the waiver.
Yeah.
As if it was disconnected from the system, right?
My thoughts in conversations with Chris Homburg is that you've got a permitted Presby mound behind this Enman property.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know if you remember, prior to 2011, if you proposed a mound system, then you had to propose another replacement mound system somewhere in your lot.
Yeah.
And then in 2011, they kind of said, that mound's not going to fail where that mound hits the native soil. It's going to fail within that mound where you usually have a stone
wholesale
bed.
replacement.
Yeah. So after 2011, when I design a mound, I don't have to designate a replacement mound area anymore. I can say, if this fails, we'll rip it all out and replace it where it is. So I kind of took that into account with that lot getting bigger. If it would have been in ground and it wouldn't have had a permit in place, I think, like you said, then it gets a lot more complicated to try to ship the...
Right, but in terms of, on Chris's side, this is not something we weigh in on, but on Chris's side, he's still okay giving a waiver even though the, land available to the system would be less. Is that right?
I don't know if that's in the wastewater rules, if they say that. I think it just says if the lot is getting larger, it doesn't talk about physical boundaries or streams, or it just gives an exemption if you're adding land to the property in the boundary line adjustment. I think that you get that waiver. Is my interpretation.
Right, in terms of adding to an existing lot. And it's sort of did Chris know that there's what we consider this perennial river here is a natural subdivision, right? Did he consider that?
Does the stream make a natural subdivision?
It does.
Per the state rules?
This is yeah.
Oh, okay.
Rivers. There's a certain flow rate or whatever, but this is a pretty significant stream. I don't know if he was weighing that, but.
Well, I think it's very simple, guys. Chris already stated his opinion about all of it, and he got all the information that you have, and I talked to him a bunch of times. He requested a bunch of additional informations, and he said by him and his knowledge, if the deal goes like chain reaction, store with Inman, store with Bolalex, and store with Inman for the new piece of land, everything is cool. That's as far as I know. David Rose, the surveyor, has very precise notations and drawings and explanations to all of it. So that's all I can tell. I don't think we have to digest it too far because it is what it is, and it doesn't have to be complicated.
If I understood you right, then if the store bought the Bolalex piece of land and then he traded with him, it might comply without changing the size of his property. It's the order in which it's being done. But from what my little research was, I would assume, though, you would also, because of the store, need an Act 250 adjustment.
We haven't even got into that yet. That's a whole other-
That's another can of worms.
That's another can of worms.
Because Act
All right,
250,
I'll shut up.
well, it's because Act 250 does have subdivision review
Right.
as well. So that's something that we haven't even talked about yet.
So my question is, this division line here, between here and here, of that piece of property, does that create a subdivision?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Well, that doesn't, I don't think they're proposing that. I don't,
Sorry, can I just clarify?
Please.
There seem to be 3 questions here, and I think we're still on the first question,
Yes.
which is, what is the state's view of the proposed process in terms of its relationship to wastewater permitting? Is that the
that's
first
sort of
question?
one of them, yeah.
There we go, too.
I'm still trying to figure out what lots exist and what don't, too. So there's,
So what is the state?
there's this, well, let's just take one step here at a time. So
What is the state?
do you happen to know whether these 2 lots exist today? The ones on the west side of the brook, or mostly west side of the brook. There's 2 lots here.
Yeah, what are those labeled as?
It's so small.
Yeah, I tried to make it bigger, but I failed. Which 2 lots are you referring to?
This one?
This one,
This one does
What
not,
are they, David?
but 1 and 2 here.
this is land claimed
These
by...
2 lots here.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's 2 lots yet.
it is 2 lots in the sense that,
See, these people have a little bit
yeah,
behind now.
that
How
section,
far it goes either way.
it goes that far. That's
But
one.
the way this is shaded,
This section here is part of the Balalok property, although it's, I can't remember how it's worded here, claimed by. I do believe there may have been some earlier assumption that this part was part of this.
Yeah, that sounds familiar to me.
Yeah, but this is now the part of the meadow, but the Enman property extends over the brook
yes,
into the meadow like that.
yes, there's no doubt they have something on that side.
The Edmonds, yeah.
Yes.
But this today is Balalak.
Yes.
Part of the meadow.
Effectively.
Is it in fact 1 lot with the meadow, or does it have, is it stated as a
I think from the, Andy can correct me if I'm wrong, David Rose did a lot of research, and I think there was some question on who had title to that lot. Was that solved in that original survey that Mr. Rose did of the meadow, Andy?
Yeah, the small trapezoidal piece was hanging out in the air. We were waiting for Austin to clarify if he has any record of him owning it. As far as I know, we paid taxes for this piece of land for 17 years. He does not have deed, and he said, I'm backing off from any claims about this piece of land.
Okay. So that's part of the meadow there.
just this side, but he does claim
Yes.
this.
Yes.
Yeah,
And then claims
This
that
has been
rectangular
known.
part
Yeah.
west of the brook.
it's very good deep, that piece over the river.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I think you can see there's like benches and stuff on that section.
So, in answer to your question, John, the current parcels are this single parcel,
Yeah.
which goes around there. The store parcel,
Yeah.
which is simply that, and the Enman parcel, which goes like that.
Yeah.
Those are the existing parcels.
And this,
So in terms of who owns, so in terms
this is a separate lot.
That's part of the meadow.
it's part of the meadow.
That's the one we just got done discussing was part of the meadow.
It's part of the meadow.
Evidently, they've come to an agreement that it is part of the meadow.
But what's your interest in that? This one?
Because that's yet another lot that needs to be created. So,
That one's, I think they're actually doing away with that, from my understanding. They're saying that's part of the meadow.
but that was going to go to the store, wasn't it?
No, this whole section on this side of the line is going to the store.
What whole section?
No, okay.
We're jumping ahead here.
Sorry, as Andy has explained, the order of events is the first thing that happens is this portion
Yeah.
of Enman's land is sold or transferred to the store. The store then because the store has a boundary line with this property. The store then has a boundary line with the meadow. Therefore, that can also be subject to a boundary line adjustment
This whole thing?
in the proposed approach. Once that has happened, then the store has a boundary line with this portion, which remains of the Enman property, so then they can do a boundary line adjustment, which compensates Enman for the loss of his land.
Okay, but the part I was not appreciating is, so the end result is the store will be this big.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's the plan, Andy, is to
Oh,
sell
there's no way, I'm sorry, there's no way, that's a boundary line adjustment. I thought we were talking about that.
No.
No.
Okay, for me, that's a hard no. That's a subdivision, guys. You're subdividing the meadow into 4 lots.
Well,
If you were doing
lots, but yeah,
You're doing it into 2.
Yeah.
it's actually,
One,
it's just getting added to the store.
2, 3.
No, that doesn't exist.
That doesn't,
So the end result is the Enman property gets larger, the store property
Why is
gets
it even
larger,
drawn then?
and the meadow gets smaller.
Why do we even have a
because
boundary
they're
on this
being
one?
transparent, that there has been question about that.
Oh, they're just saying it's not, the title's not as clear as the rest.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so assume that's contiguous with the meadow. So I would view it as a boundary line adjustment because M is expanding, it's becoming a bigger lot. The store is expanding and becoming a bigger
From
lot. and then the meadow-
0.15 to what? From
Sorry,
point-
just to clarify, Enman property staying the same.
Right.
So the
Store lot goes from 0.15 acres to what?
The store lot goes on the form as submitted.
To 7?
The store goes from 0.14 acres to 0.27 in the first.
In the end.
Well, in the end, it would be 6 minus 3, so it would be
No, it's
2.78 acres.
That is,
How big's the field to start with?
Should have acreage on it.
6.18.
Okay, the field's 6.18 to start with.
that's, you know,
2.51 acres is this side. 3.67 is this side.
something like that.
Yes.
Where's the 2.15 after they've taken that piece out?
Right. Yeah, to the first piece that was given
Well, it's
to,
2.51, not 1.5.
So they're adding 2 point
something acres.
something acres, plus what
I
they,
thought the whole meadow was 10.
Plus what they acquired.
oh, it says here it's 6 point.
6.18.
Well, the whole meadow is Mohawks.
I know, but it was 10 acres.
Gonna be the dividing line.
No, the whole meadow is 6.1.
Is it 6 point? Okay. All right, so yeah, it's approximately half.
And he's
I
basically
see a subdivision there.
taking 2 point some acres out of the 6 acres
I mean, you're going,
and giving a piece of it, I don't know how much,
yeah, easy.
Then the other stuff could
what's
be,
his face?
that's the way a boundary line adjustment should be.
Going from point,
Give something but get something.
yeah, going from something that's small to something that is what, more than 10 times bigger is not what anybody would consider a boundary line adjustment, I don't think.
Is there a definition though that gives you a maximum you can have to a property?
In terms of what?
The guidance on the town's website.
The other part is that this property here is shrinking substantially.
Can I clarify the answer to his question? The guidance on the town's website and his guidance says if it's a substantial change, then a boundary line adjustment should be subject to subdivision process.
Does it define substantial?
That's about as substantial as you're gonna get.
He's changed it.
An objective measure would say going from this tiny lot to this is substantial by anybody's measure.
You're not creating new lots. You're starting with what's the new lot though?
No, you're not. You haven't created any new lots.
There is a word contiguous. And if you want the whole layout that David Rose studied from 0 to 100%, before we even started to talk about it, please reach out to him and he's gonna give you the whole rendering.
The surveyor.
David Rose.
So, okay. Is Andy Schultz still on?
I don't see him.
Hold on, you might be. Yeah.
Andy, can you hear us? Andy Schultz?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I don't know how much of that you were able to follow, but I think one thing that was I didn't appreciate until now is that in the end, the essentially half of the meadow is proposed to be absorbed into the store lot. And that's not how I saw the original drawings. Maybe I misunderstood them, obviously.
If I could just add one thing too, I mean, the reason we started discussing this was just for the septic for the store. So because of all the rules that are in place for commercial septic, the well, I believe, has to be like 200 feet away from the septic. So this, it's kind of needed that whole land essentially for the septic.
Yeah, it's a simple relationship. Sorry, Alisa, but you need this acreage to satisfy the leaching field, separation from leaching field to the water well and the water well itself. And that was the simplest possible solution that between...
I have a few questions, if I might.
Okay.
Yeah, so my first question is, I heard a representation a while ago that Chris Tomberg of the state had reviewed all the information and had given it his blessing. And I'm trying to understand whether the information, this is my specific question, did the information that he was given include the fact that there is a stream that runs through this property and creates a natural boundary line or subdivision? Does he know that?
He has the map, full-scale map, and this town office has bigger version of the map that I delivered about 3 months ago.
That doesn't quite answer my question. Do you know that he knows that there's a stream there?
The stream is very obviously marked on the map. And he was the one who gave me the permission to do the agricultural passage through the brook from the Tarbellville Road to the meadow. And having this knowledge, he worked on the issues with kind of final opinion, which he presented. I believe you got it. If you didn't get it, I'm not in town. I didn't get the final, but I was in conversation with him yesterday morning.
Okay. So another question I have is, and I apologize because if I were there, I'd be able to see the plan that's on the table more clear. But is that the final plan? Does that show exactly what's being proposed? Or there's been a lot of talk about what it shows and what's what, and so I'm unclear whether the Planning Commission has before it a document that shows exactly what it is that's being proposed.
Yes, that's exactly what the discussion for months was between the store and us.
And I'm asking a specific question. Is the plan that's on the table there the final plan?
Yes, this is the most current plan that has all the data that David Rose collected over last year, and that's the most complex page with all the data that we can come up with.
That's the plan dated September 10th.
Well, and can I just clarify, Andy Schultz, this is for the last meeting I sent you a copy of what Andy Balalok had submitted to the town, which includes this plan.
Right, and I'm asking whether that's the final plan. What I've heard is
what we're looking at in terms of the physical piece of paper in front of us is the same as the one that Andy Balalak submitted to the town a month ago.
I understand that, and I'm asking
different questions.
Balalak, is that the final plan? And the answer I got was that it's the most current plan.
And it is a final plan.
Okay. All right.
Did you have another question, Andy?
Unfortunate
Andy, you're breaking up slightly, or a lot.
If they exchange
I think we may have lost you.
boundary line.
We're not hearing you if you're talking. So you had a question, Andrew?
I mean, it's not really a question, but I guess what I see us down to is determining what the word substantial means in town ordinance to us, or the planning commission. As to whether this is a boundary,
It's not in the ordinance.
as to what a boundary line adjustment is and whether it needs to be a subdivision or not.
Just one of the questions is whether we consider this a subdivision or requires a subdivision in order to move forward.
Because it is substantial.
Yeah, it's really substantial. No question. And there are other separate questions we haven't even gotten to yet.
I would assume a third of the acreage.
It's 10 times the size.
Right, well, yeah, but for the Balaliks to give a third of their acreage away,
Well,
that's substantial to me.
even more than a third.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
I went from 6 to 2,
40%.
roughly.
Yeah, it's 40%.
Okay.
Any sort of other questions are that, has anybody talked to the Act 250 coordinator about the project?
I have not.
Okay, because we have a commercial facility that's on a lot larger than an acre here, and will require, in my opinion, you need to check with the coordinator, an Act 250 permit. And I don't know how that works with the sort of like complicated process to get to this final configuration. Whether they need to approve it ahead of time. So they do have to approve some subdivisions. We probably need to check in with them on that. In terms of what is actually in the design here, I'm not sure it directly relates to anything that we're considering, but just for us all to understand what the path forward is here, how does the waste get across the stream?
Force main?
What's that?
A force main?
Okay, so it's
Yes,
under,
a pump station and
pumps it underneath. Okay.
And the state already
I'm not sure. I'm not involved with it.
Yeah, we've been working with Brooks Excavator in Ludlow. He's worked with the state on all of that stuff already. When we were looking to see if it was possible and feasible.
Okay, so they have a PE professional, certified engineer doing this design?
Yeah.
Because this is above the...
It's above my scope.
Yeah.
And, the state looks at, like, food prep is high strength, and that usually triggers PE to get involved.
Okay. And where is that in the permitting process?
It hasn't started, just because this was the first step, was to acquire the land.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a chicken and egg, right? So if you don't get a permit for this design, then what happens then with the lot configuration?
I mean, it stays the same, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you have a meadow.
Yeah.
All right.
We can't really propose a new wastewater disposal field if it's not land that's owned by the store, I guess. So you can't really start I would say it wouldn't make sense to start the wastewater permit until you had an available area.
Just curious, why not? I mean, there's proposed designs without land acquisition that happen. You could have an agreement between two neighbors even for a wastewater system, right? You don't have to own the land.
You could do an easement, yeah. But if the plan is to transfer land, it seems like it would make sense to do that first before you got too far into your design, because you need some kind of approved area that...
Yeah, but then they're stuck owning the meadow and going through all this.
I guess that's on them.
If the state doesn't approve.
Part of the meadow.
Yeah.
And then
It wouldn't be any loss either way.
They would have bought part of the meadow, that's it.
And can't put a septic on it like they bought it.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful meadow, so.
Yeah.
It's permitted for...
There's
I
that.
would let you keep their horses there.
So, but the engineering surely can be done anytime. I mean, this happens all the time with wastewater systems, right? You design the system before you get it permitted, obviously, and you may not have a proposal. You may not even have lots, right? You sort of imagine lots. You can design a system, imagine lots, go through a discussion with various levels of permitting, the regional, or the state level.
We've done all of that.
I think they've looked at some like conceptual designs, but I don't know if it was me paying a professional engineer, I'd want to like know that the area was there, because he could do all kinds of hours of work coming up with different ideas and configurations, and then the land sale falls through and then you say, oh, now I've got nowhere to put this septic system that I've paid you thousands of dollars to design. So that would be my reservation in hiring an engineer first thing. I think that the land acquisition or the boundary line adjustment would probably make sense as a first step.
I mean, but the boundaries are determined by the design. But there's no other purpose for any of this except for that design.
I'm not sure.
I mean, that's how I'm hearing it.
Well,
The whole point of all of this is to build a wastewater system.
Right, because I think.
But could we ask Andy Balog? There was existing a potential boundary because there had been two dwellings
Designed for their waste systems, designed there.
So that Andy Balog can probably confirm this was already.
Yeah, I mean, we got the permit from the state, and that was some time ago, for 2 dwellings, 2 leaching fields, 2 water wells. And one of them is located on the part of the meadow that we are negotiating with the store, to sell to them to alleviate the store's problems, which started the whole commotion in the village about, how complicated it was. I don't want to go there, but I think from day one, when we started to talk to the store owners, we checked with the engineers what is possible, what is legally fitting, and it was boundary adjustment, 3 ways, and engineering for the septic system, or amending, or making the permitted leaching field that we already have. This is consequential. It will happen when it happens. Right now we are discussing the buying and selling the land, with trying to help the process, negotiating with Austin, negotiating with Alyssa, with us, how to make it work the possible best way, without dividing the hair in 4 or 8 pieces. I think it's simple, the way we started it, consulting with Dave Rose and his crowd, and talking to Chris Tomberg. We thought it's feasible, and it's going to benefit the store. That was the main drive for the whole thing.
Right, yeah, I think we all understand that part. Is the intention to use your existing wastewater permit and amend it for the new system? Or what happens to your, the Balalic wastewater design, permitted design?
What do you mean? We retain the other part of the meadow that has separate leaching fields, separate location for the house, possible house, that probably won't be ever built, and water well.
Right.
So those are 2 separate things.
Well, no, they're not, right? You have 1 wastewater permit for the meadow.
Excuse me?
Not 2, correct? 2. You have 2 separate
It's a
wastewater
subdivision
permits.
permit. I've got 10 acres.
So it's interesting that you should say that. Right? So there are two different permits for this one lot?
1 permit for the 1 lot, and that's what the state sees. So like as an example, I have 10 acres on Tiffany Road, right? I could subdivide with the state today and propose another septic and house on my lot into 2 5-acre lots. I could get that approved with the state, and I could sit on that for 20 years before I came to the town with a stamp survey from a licensed surveyor and say, hey, I'm ready to subdivide these. So as far as the state sees that as two parcels right now, because we've subdivided it as a state level. The town only sees it as 1.
No, the state does not see it as 2 lots.
They see it.
I mean, with respect to your wastewater plan, it has the potential to be 2 lots.
If you wanted to subdivide at the town level.
There's no town level, state level. Subdivisions don't exist until we approve them at the state level. So the towns approve subdivisions, the state doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay, just
So
want to be clear.
I've proposed the subdivision with the state, and they've said, yep, that works. You can turn that into 2 lots. It can't be official until a surveyor comes and says, here's the new line. And now we're applying to make it 2 lots.
With respect to groundwater protection, that plan would work for them, is what they're saying.
That's all I've got to meet. Yeah, it's the state rules in order to split it into 2 lots.
Okay. But today, just so I understand, the Meadow lot, the Balalic property, has 1 wastewater permit or 2 separate permits?
1 wastewater
permit, which includes a division of land, a proposed division of land. Okay. So in this scenario that we're playing out, where, well, let's go back 1 more step. So the proposed lot division here, is it the same as what's in the state wastewater proposal?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. So what, and you can maybe educate me on this, what happens when land transfers? Does part of that wastewater approval go with it?
This one would be tricky because Austin has a wastewater permit, the store has a few versions of their wastewater permit, and then you have the Meadow. And so it would be an amendment of at least one of those. Maybe they would pick the largest lot. Who's gaining the most, I don't know. But you would amend a permit, you might amend it to say, we're abandoning development plans for the east side of the meadow, and in place, we're gonna put this wastewater for the store. So one of those permits would have to get amended.
Well, by the rules, the Balalics would have to amend their permit because their lot is getting substantially smaller.
Actually, Chris
Right.
Tomberg clarified that they would be able to reduce the size of their lot and still be able to conform with the boundary line exemption based on clause 4, which is that the Secretary of State, on a case-by-case basis, can make a written determination that the proposed adjustment will not have an adverse effect on any existing potable water supply or wastewater system on the affected lots.
So the keyword being existing.
Yes.
But
It is existing over here.
It's not existing over there.
Yes,
If they got a permit, yeah.
existing, meaning existing in the ground or existing in a plan. That's an interesting.
It's in the plan,
Yeah.
on the ground.
And maybe that's because it would follow the existing lot division. Okay.
Yeah.
But
If you took all of this out, dealt with this little wiggle back and forth amongst the owners, would we have to even be involved in that?
In the order in which they're
separate
doing it.
question. Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
I do.
Right. Well, it's the order in which they're doing it that's causing.
Yeah, but you see, if we don't have this involved, we get this dealt with.
Two lot subdivision and then the boundary line adjustment.
And then these adjustments here, it's just a matter of, I'm selling you a piece of land and I'm buying a piece of land here.
Yeah, like,
In other words, take the complication out of it.
well, the complication is the way they're doing it, the order in which they're doing it. Besides the size of the property.
I think one thing that we need, right, so one thing that we would need to address is whether we would require at minimum a 2-lot subdivision for this to proceed. And then this would get sold. It was subdivision with the intention of this being transferred to the store. And what that would do is immediately trigger Act 250. But that's,
What?
so, that's it's sort of a chicken and egg again on whether, which you do first.
That would sort of simplify this whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if they change the order, if Balalic and I forgot the other gentleman's name, traded land, and then, in other words,
That's it. Balalic, the store doesn't have any land to trade with Enman.
Yeah.
right, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the other gentleman where
Why should he trade?
Enman.
Edmund is the other gentleman.
Edmund, if he,
Enman is the other gentleman.
Yeah.
okay, yeah, Edmund, he could trade with Balalic and get the piece of land, just give up the piece of land on one side and gain it on the other side of the
I don't
creek.
think we're going to get involved in
And
the
that's-
horse trading.
Well, I'm just saying that takes away the first step of the complication, because they are actually neighbors trading.
No, there's details, and then there's like a
Okay.
giant elephant in the room that
Well,
there's a lot being divided down the middle.
Right,
and,
that's the other issue.
essentially following through on the existing wastewater or state subdivision in order to proceed.
And I don't see any complications with it going through as a subdivision. Really.
Other than the Act 250 component, it's hard to know whether that comes before or after, but
Well, that would, if you take this out of it.
In theory, do we
This
need to worry
would be-
about whether they get an Act 250 permit? That's,
yes and no. I mean, it's sort of like,
Would Act 250 only be triggered if something's built on the property?
no, you're going to trigger Act 250 regardless, I'm sorry to tell you.
I don't know the rules with that.
It's anything over an acre.
In a town with no zoning, typically.
Yeah, we don't have, if we had zoning, then it would be handled at the local level, but because we don't, it's handled at the state level.
I have a question.
Yes, Andy?
Am I correct in understanding that there's an existing Act 250 permit for the store?
No, because they're less than an acre and they're exempt.
So what's the existing wastewater permit? It's just a wastewater permit? It's not an Act 250 permit?
I think the Kellys maybe got the first one to maybe reallocate some of their design flows. I think it's how it's worked over the years.
I think they were limited to like seed stores.
I guess, I looked online to see what wastewater permits or what permits there are. And I saw a permit, which I guess is just a wastewater permit, that was amended to accommodate the cider operation. So I guess part of my question is, I guess if it's not an existing Act 250 permit, there's still a wastewater permit that's limited to the store operations as it existed previously, plus the cider operation. But it seems to me that that wastewater permit's going to need to be amended to accommodate, the new expanded functions of the store and cafe or whatever it is that's going to be operating there. So if I was under the impression that that was an existing Act 250 permit, but if there is none, then it's just a wastewater permit.
Correct, just a wastewater permit. So as it stands now, they can operate under the whatever's existing as their allocation. It's like a store with...
It's the two apartments, the store with 4 seats, and the cider operation, which involves removing waste off-site.
In other words, pumping.
Yeah.
Or opens or reopens. My understanding is it's going to be more than just the 4 seats.
I don't know that information.
No
I think
idea.
that's part of the reason for trying to build a new septic system.
Yeah, it can't be more than 4 until there's a septic, so.
Well, I think you might, maybe I'm wrong, but you might have that reversed. It seems to me that you have to tell the state how many you want, and then they'll decide whether your septic or proposed septic can accommodate that.
The current septic is only for 4, so I can
understand.
but the proposed septic would be more if.
Right.
Yep.
But don't you have to tell the state how much more for them to give you a permit?
Yeah, no, we would have to go through all of that.
Okay.
If I understood John properly, if a commercial operation exceeded 1 acre, it fell under the state's Act 250 rules.
Right.
And so their wastewater permit would have to be approved under the Act 250.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, there's no scenario here that would have, as a loophole to get you out of Act 250. This is well above 1 acre in the end. Another way of saying that is, there's no games we can play or things we could avoid doing to solve that problem for anybody. It's going to hit Act 250, I think, one way or the other.
You're going to hit Act 250 the minute the store owns that piece of property.
Right. You can't configure your way out of that one. By boundary line adjustments, you're going to have review of the whole thing. Okay. Well, I think we've probably gotten. I think the commissioners are. Does anybody else? Any of the commissioners have any other questions for any of the parties? No?
I don't.
Nope.
Oh, yeah, you can have a question.
I just wonder if there's an easement or right of way for the store to gain access to the 2.51 acres from
Yeah, it's marked.
Gavel-to-gavel Road.
It's marked.
It is marked, so that's included in that, so, yeah. Okay, right here.
However,
Well, there is also another one at the
an
bridge.
agricultural access won't cut it. So I hope you guys know that. That's gonna be kind of problematic.
Road coming in here. There's a bridge right there.
Yeah, that bridge won't hold anything.
Yeah, you gotta have something that you can get into.
You have to build a new bridge.
Yeah, there's gonna have to be a bridge or something.
And, you know, the other access is that the Blalox put in was a walking bridge and then
Okay.
a crossing the stream.
Yeah, that's.
Are we all on the same page that we're looking at this two-lot subdivision here as this first step?
Yes.
Andy, Schultz, are you on the same page? Hopefully we didn't lose you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yes. Did you hear my question?
Yeah. Yes, we're on the same page.
Okay, and you? Yeah, I think it was your idea. So. All right, so I think what we're looking at here, folks, is the meadow needs to be divided, and then all these other deals can get worked out. As far as I can tell from this perspective, my own opinion is more or less without us once we
Yeah, they could
have an approved
They can
subdivision.
almost be worked out amongst themselves.
So I think that's where we are. Do you have any questions for us?
Anyone?
Yeah, anybody?
Well, I know that my starting point and the discussions at the get-go were much simpler than you are talking about, and I will ask the people whom I worked with to write the opinion of what we had discussed. And the bottom line is the store basically has no perspective to have leaching field to satisfy more than 4 sittings. The store and Austin both have pieces of land that they are willing to work with to alleviate the situation with the store, and the store owners and us are in discussion to buy the 2 acre with the state permit for 1 septic system, 1 dwelling, and 1 water well that can be worked and extended. So those are the facts that we started to work on, and that's pretty much it. I haven't heard in any of these opinions from the lawyers, from the engineers, that we have to go to Act 250. The pieces are not contiguous, and it should be based on the state law, in opinion of Chris Stonberg. It should be doable, and that's how we concluded our discussions a few days ago, and that's where we stand. If things get complicated, we'll have to rethink our whole approach to selling, to help the store, to help the village to some extent, and all the good stuff. So that's pretty much my conclusion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just be clear again. And I'm speaking for the commission since I asked everyone. We will require you to make a subdivision proposal before moving forward. And we will happily hear from you on that. We're happy to take any information from your surveyor or your attorney or anyone else who officially represents you. But we certainly will weigh that, but until further any further notice. That's our decision. And that is something we would need a new plat for and you to go through the subdivision application process. As far as the other things you mentioned about the state's view, it's sort of irrelevant. The state may have a view on what they think is permissible, but we have local permitting of subdivisions here in Mount Holly, and that's what we do. So for this lot to exist, it needs to be approved. So I think that's where we are. We can, I think Faith will be in touch with you if you want to be on the agenda next month. That would be fine. We can even, discuss, we can do more conversation, or we can move forward with a subdivision, whichever you prefer. Okay, anybody else? We all set with that? All right, thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. It helps to discuss this like this, rather than it have emails flying around. I don't think we have any other business tonight, do we?
No.
That's good. All right, no new business, no unfinished business. Public comments? No? Okay. Regular meeting next month, regular same bat channel, same bat time. Oh, wait a minute though. Or do we even want to do the same time? What is the third? Oh, that's okay. That's okay. We can do 18. If we get later, then we might think about moving it, but everybody okay with 18?
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
All right. Anything else for the good of the commission? All right. 8:13, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.